Howdy. We say howdy in Georgia also. Well, it's a great pleasure for me to be here with the other presidents to carry out this big project. I've just enjoyed seeing what the Points of Light does for the country. I've seen that for many years. I'd like to remind people that Habitat for Humanity is located in Georgia. My wife and I have worked with Habitat now for 36 years, at least 1 week each year. And America is known for volunteer work. In fact, we're ahead of any other nation. Last year, there were 67 million Americans who volunteered to help other people in America. And that came to 8 billion hours of work worth $184 billion. So that's what volunteers did last year. And I hope this year they're going to do a lot more. That's about 1 out of 5 of the total population of America. We want to see what the other 4/5 do. Habitat has agreed to build 6,000 houses in the devastated area. And to do this, all of us Habitat volunteers will raise $100 million. And we've already raised 20 million, so we got a long way to go. This is a wonderful project, and if you want to contribute, obviously, to One America, that's fine. If you want to contribute to Habitat, you can remember this: 1-800-HABITAT, Habitat. So let's all work together. Let's all work together and make America still a greater volunteer nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. When President George H.W. Bush was trying to persuade the Congress to pass one of his noblest endeavors, the Americans with Disabilities Act, he said, "Our problems are great, but the heart of America is greater." That's what we're here to celebrate. We were all citizens, even us, before we were politicians. And after our time was up, we became citizens again. We've been volunteering since before our Constitution, when Benjamin Franklin organized the first volunteer fire department in Philadelphia. Our neighbors, our friends, have gotten an enormous amount of sweat equity from all these volunteers and a lot of money. But make no mistake about it, these were grievous storms back to back. There is still work to be done in Texas and in Florida, and our friends in Puerto Rico and the American Virgin Islands have only begun to dig their way out of what could be still a calamitous disaster, but can be a new beginning if we just do what we ought to do and prove that the heart of America, without regard to race or religion or political party, is greater than our problems.
Hi to Texas. Yeah. So, all of us on this stage here tonight could not be prouder of the response of Americans when they see their neighbors and they see their friends, they see strangers in need. Americans step up. And as heartbreaking as the tragedies that took place here in Texas and in Florida, in Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands have been, what we've also seen is the spirit of America at its best. When ordinary people step up and do extraordinary things. The One America appeal is part of that process, and I want to thank President George W. Bush, and most of all, an outstanding American, somebody who has always shown grace and character and courage and served America nobly throughout the years, President George H.W. Bush. We are so proud to be with him today. He sets an example for all of us, as does First Lady Barbara Bush. And that spirit of voluntarism, that spirit that says we're all in this together, that in dire times ignores all the differences that we had before, that spirit is exemplified by the 5 Points of Light recipients whose stories you just saw on the screen and who are here tonight. So it is my great pleasure to bring these outstanding Americans to the stage so that you can acknowledge the extraordinary work that they have done, and I hope everybody who's watching is inspired by the work that they've done.
In 1989, President George H.W. Bush created the Daily Point of Light Award to celebrate the power of an individual to make a difference in the lives of others. He was the first president in American history to institute a daily presidential recognition program from the White House. The work he began has taken root in America's fabric and has been built upon by every succeeding president. Points of Light proudly stewards this legacy by continuing to honor individuals with daily Point of Light awards, over 6,000 to date. We are grateful to have President Carter, President Bush 41, President Clinton, President Bush 43, and President Obama. Stand with us. Thank you as we recognize and honor the following individual points of light. Zachary Deering, for his volunteer leadership at an evacuation shelter. Leah Halbina, for using her technology skills to be a virtual volunteer for storm survivors in Texas and in her home state of Florida. Murad Ajani, for mobilizing over 2,500 members of the Islamli Muslim communities as volunteers. Kat Creech, for using her professional skills as a wedding planner to organize volunteers to begin rebuilding more than 250 homes, and Derek Auguste for organizing volunteers to prepare for and respond to Hurricane Irma and for coordinating the supply shipments to Puerto Rico and after Hurricane Maria. Congratulations and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. It is, first of all, I'm thrilled to be able to introduce 39, 42, and 44 to one of the finest universities in the United States. I too am here to urge you to give to this fine fund, and I want to thank all the volunteers, but I'm here for another reason. I speak for the folks right here when I say we really admire and love George H.W. Bush.
From the 1991 Oliver Stone movie, JFK?
There are hundreds of documents that could help prove this conspiracy. Why are they being withheld or burned by the government? All these documents are yours. The people's property. You pay for it. But because the government considers you children who might be too disturbed or distressed to face this reality, or because you might possibly lynch those involved, you cannot see these documents for another 75 years.
That scene is particularly relevant this week. The movie and the conspiracy speculation that it generated led to the 1992 law known as the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act, which requires that more than 3,000 previously classified documents and parts of 30,000 others must be made public by the law's 25th anniversary, which is this Thursday, October 26th. JFK's assassination has haunted America for generations and inspired endless conspiracy theories about whether other forces were responsible besides just the shooter, Lee Harvey Oswald. The only person who could have prevented the release is President Donald Trump. And this morning, he tweeted this: "Subject to the receipt of further information, I will be allowing, as president, the long-blocked and classified JFK files to be opened." Joining me now to discuss and what the papers could reveal, Gerald Posner, who wrote the book on the assassination, Case Closed, in which he concluded that Oswald did it and he acted alone. Hey, Gerald, I should begin with this. Pretty amazing that you wrote a bestseller on the Kennedy assassination and came to the very non-sensationalist conclusion that the Warren Commission got it right.
Yeah, you know, Michael, it's right. The conclusion is the same, Oswald alone. But what I did, as you know, 20 years ago in my book, and what these files are doing, and they're important, why they continue to come out, is they fill in the history of the case, and they show us how the FBI and the CIA repeatedly misled the Warren Commission, how they were hiding up things to cover their own bureaucratic behinds, and they gave the evidence of a conspiracy. It wasn't a conspiracy for murder, as you just showed in that clip from Stone's JFK, but a conspiracy of their own bureaucratic reputations. And that's what we're finding out in history. That's what we found out over the decades. The truth is Oswald killed the president, but there was also a cover-up by these agencies to mislead the government to protect themselves.
What do you think we're going to learn in the 3,000 files?
Well, you know, in these 3,000 files, when you say that, it's tens of thousands of pages of documents inside of them. So they're files, but then there are larger materials in between. And they include everything from files about the Watergate burglar E. Howard Hunt. There's files about an attorney for Carlos Marcello, the mob boss who was, some thought, involved in the assassination. There's a psychological profile of Lee Harvey Oswald by the CIA. But the biggest news that JFK researchers are looking for, and historians, is the area about Mexico City, where Oswald was only 7 weeks before the assassination. He was trying to get back to Cuba. He went to the Soviet mission twice and the Cuban mission, and he was thrown out of all of them. What did the CIA learn about his visit there? Did he make a threat against Kennedy, as some have reported over the years? That might be in the files. And that's one of the reasons people were afraid they might not be released, is because sources are disclosed in there who were informants for the CIA in the Mexican government. Some of them might still be alive. It could be embarrassing for the Mexicans, but it looks as though with that tweet just a few minutes ago, my favorite tweet of the Trump presidency, that we might end up
Army
seeing all these files in a few
David
days.
Johnson, as you might imagine, a very emotional and somber moment here for this family. He was surrounded by family members, by friends. We've learned that he's also a mentor to many, so hearts are very, very heavy. We know, of course, that he is survived by his wife and childhood sweetheart, Maisha Johnson, They have 2 young children and another one on the way. And Pam, one of the very emotional moments today was when soldiers gave each one of them an American flag. His widow, his 2 children, and then, of course, the widow approached the casket and in a very emotional way kissed the casket goodbye. We're also learning more from the obituary about his playful nature. He was playful. We've learned that he had a nickname, Wheelie King, because he used to go to his former job at Walmart at the produce section on one wheel. He was raised here in South Florida. He loved football, and of course, he loved this country, the country that he served, the country that he died for. And today, he was honored here with full military color, with full military honors, as family and his wife, of course, his children surrounded him and said goodbye.